In this lesson, we'll take our existing toolpath that we just created and copy it. And with that copy, we're going to adjust it to explore more of the settings within the toolpath. I'll start by going to the Toolpaths Manager, and we can see our original contour toolpath. To copy it, I can right-click and use one of the copy and paste options here, or I can also right-click and drag. And if I right-click and drag and then let go, you'll see I have a move option and a copy option. I'm going to copy after, and of course now what that did was it copied this toolpath down to here. Now this red insertion arrow happens to be where another toolpath would be created if I went up and created one using the menu. For now, I'm just going to take that arrow and move it down to the bottom, and then we can go into this toolpath to explore some additional parameters. Before I do that, I'd like to zoom the part over to the left, and then open up the toolpath and move the parameters to the right. That way we can see the toolpath here, and then we can adjust the parameters here. So as you saw, we'd go into the toolpath by clicking the parameters button. And then with this toolpath open, I can adjust some of the parameters. So for example, if we wanted to adjust the amount of depth cuts here, I could go over to depth cuts and then turn on depth cuts. This is where I can choose the amount of rough step that each depth cut would pass, and then add any desired finish passes as well. I'll make my max rough step at 0.1, and I will add one finish pass, and that finish pass at the bottom will be at a depth of 0.05. I'm also going to choose the option to keep tool down, and before I click OK, let's just hit the preview button right here, and we can now see that there are multiple depth cuts that get calculated. And you can see the bottom one here is that 0.05 pass we did. Let's adjust our max rough step to something else like 0.5 and hit preview. Now you'll see the depth cuts are much more aggressive, and again we still have that one finish pass at the bottom. Now in the event that we wanted to work from the outside in towards the final shape and come up against the wall with one final pass, we can turn on multi-passes. Multi-passes, once enabled, will work its way in from the outside, like we see in the picture here, towards the final shape. I'll make 2 rough passes at a spacing of 0.1 inches, and then I'll hit preview. So now you can see, based on the preview here, that we have 2 passes, and this final pass is right up to the wall because we don't have any finish passes turned on. Once we're happy with everything, we can click OK, and you'll notice now that we have the new toolpath which has been updated. So we always have the original toolpath. And the original toolpath, if you notice, is just a contour around the bottom. And I use this option here called Only Display Selected Toolpaths. So only the toolpath that is selected gets displayed. Now, of course, in reality, we probably wouldn't start with this toolpath, but we might start with a toolpath like this. But in this course, we're really just exploring some toolpath options here. Another thing you can do is select different geometry to apply to the toolpath. So if you recall, we took this toolpath and copied it down here. Well, maybe we wanted to do that because we liked the parameters here. However, we want to choose different geometry now to cut. So what I can do is go back into the parameters right here, or I could click on the geometry. Both ways work. If I go into the parameters here, I then have to go to my toolpath type and click one of these options, which would be the same as just simply clicking on the geometry option here. The first thing I'm going to do is remove all the selected chains, which means I'm going to remove the fact that we grabbed this outside shape. Now I want to select new geometry. Here, I want to machine around this boss here. Now, unfortunately, I can't pick this bottom shape. And the reason I can't is because it doesn't come around the back of the part here. So what I'm going to do is select the top shape. Again, closer to this corner, because my intention is I want it to go along this wall. Right there. So there's the start. I get a green arrow with no red arrow, which means it's going to continue around until it gets back. I click OK. Now, if you remember, If I click OK right now and recalculate the toolpath, we might get some interesting results, because on the linking parameters, I said go to a depth, incremental. Remember, this incremental is relative to where you selected the geometry. Well, I selected it at the top of the part, and I don't want to cut the top of the part. So I'm going to go down here to depth and choose a new depth. That value right there. And I'm doing this because I don't know this exact value, which happens to be minus 0.61. If I knew that, I would just type it in, obviously. Now let's hit the preview toolpath button, and the toolpath comes in with our depth cuts and our multipasses turned on, and then out. So this is how you take an existing toolpath and then copy it, and then you can make adjustments to the copy. I also find it useful to do this when you want to try new scenarios. For example, if you really like this toolpath because it works, but you want to try something and you don't want to impact this proven toolpath, you can copy it and then make adjustments to this one. And if it doesn't work, you simply delete it. And if it does work, well, then you can use this new toolpath. In the next lesson, we'll explore pocketing options and how we can use them on this part.